we did a tour on Jupyter Notebook, and we looked at quite a number of functionality on Jupyter Notebook. Then we did a quick introduction to GitHub, and I'm very happy that every one of us have created our account on GitHub, and I followed everybody this afternoon. Now, when you follow someone like that on GitHub, whenever such person maybe uploads a code, updates his code base, or does anything that has to do with, I get notified. So maybe there is a software, maybe you are working on something and I want to follow the progress. So each time you update the software, I get notified. So we can as well follow one another. So I actually followed also that when we start making use of the software, I can see the progress. Then last week also, we also looked at variables. We looked at variables, and we explained and we understood the fact that variable is just what we use to store data values. Just what we use to store data values, and we explained that at least anything we can save on a variable, and variable help us to reduce the number of repetitions we have in when we're writing our code. So today we're going to what we have. So today we'll be looking at data type. I'll quickly go through data types again. I saw the assignment on the platform. We actually read them, and I believe we were able to grab one or two things from our readings. To be deep into data types, then we will now branch into operator. So I'll be sharing my screen now. So Anaconda, okay, Jupyter Notebook, okay. So just like last week, we opened a folder on our desktop, folder called data science, and we said that inside the data science, that's what we'll be storing virtually all that we'll be doing, so that our codes are not scattered. So today we are looking at data type using Python. Just like we've read and we've discussed, it's just like as variables exist, there are different kinds of variables. There are different kinds of data you can store in a variable. So, and there are quite many of them. If you actually, I went through the link that was put on the WhatsApp platform, and I saw that those links actually did good justice to data type. But I will be explaining some nitty-gritties about data type, and how we can maximize it. So my notebook is loading now. So briefly, what I will we'll go through on is I will explain the various data types, at least the most common one, most used one. At least I can say this is 80% of. This is 80% of the various data types. So starting with the first one, as you can see on the screen, integer, float, string, and complex. Now, let me briefly explain something. As you can see, the way I structured my Jupyter Notebook now, you can actually structure yours also like this. Now, as you can see, this is a cell itself. This is a cell, this is a cell, this is a cell. And if you can remember last week, I explained that there's command mode and there's edit mode. Now, this is command mode now. But if you take note, what I have here is different from what I have here. They are all cells, but I've changed this particular cell to be a markdown. Now, a markdown is just like some of us that maybe are familiar with HTML and CSS. So maybe like the way I'm taking this class now, I'm explaining a concept. Maybe you've come up with a model and you want to explain your solution. The solution will not only contain your code, it should contain some information that explains your code. So we actually make use of Markdown. So let me briefly do that. let's take for example, this particular cell now, I want to use it to explain a concept. Let me say, I want to explain operator. Then I can just say, so Markdown is a language, itself. So I will send a link to us after this class so that we can go and read more about Markdown. It's not Python, but it's a skill that if we can learn how to use, packaging our work would be very, very, very easy. So take for example now, I want to explain a section underneath. Let me use Markdown. So there are syntax to it. So now I want operator to look like what I wrote there, frozen set. What I'll do, I can convert this particular cell to a Markdown. So what I do is, I'll go to cell, I'll go to cell type, then I'll click on Markdown. It has changed this to Markdown, but that's not all. It's not looking like what I have frozen set here. So I will just press Shift Enter. As you can see, that particular cell has become a Markdown. And there are many things you can do with that Markdown. Maybe you want to list, so it has syntax. Maybe I want to write something and I want to bolden it. I can still edit this further. Take for example now, this hash here actually signifies how large the text will be. I can actually reduce it. I press Shift Enter. You can see it's bigger. Then if I want to reduce it more, I'll use the hash to reduce it. And there are some other things. Maybe I want to bolden the text. I can just use 3 stars, and I will use, let's say, let me write welcome to operator class. I close it without bolding. I press Shift Enter. As you can see, it has boldened that particular text. Take for example, maybe I want to list something now. I can use this. I can say, okay, say multiplication. The second is addition, and so on. So if I press Shift Enter, so as you can see now, so maybe below it now, I can now start doing all I want to do that now has to do with Python code. So this one is a cell now, but I've changed this cell to become a Markdown. And what I actually did was that I understood how Markdown works. I understood the syntax, and I have a plan what I want to do. And I have this cell, and I click on the cell. I went to cell, and I went to cell type. I changed the cell type, and I changed it to a Markdown. And now when I change it to a Markdown, and I press Shift Enter, which is like running that particular cell, it becomes a Markdown. So maybe the next cell underneath here, I can begin to write the code and begin to run my Python code. So it makes our work more presentable. So it's a skill set we need in this journey. So let me just delete, let me delete. So
is cell type automatically in code mode?
Yes, sir. Okay. So we can change it to whichever mode we want to change it to. So what we just need to learn now is how to use the Markdown to present whatever I want to present. Like this place now is a cell. I've changed to a Markdown. As you can see now, look at the code written in Markdown format. This greater than sign actually has a function it does. This backtick actually has a function it does. This is the bold something now that I actually just explained to us, but it's not hard at all. Everything is, you can actually read it in a day and start playing around it. So I just feel I should introduce us to that also. It's going to be very, very important when we are presenting our results, maybe explaining our solution, and we can, when we export it, it still maintain that that format. So that's concerning Markdown. So that was what I did for all what we are seeing here. So if I double click on it now, you see the code that actually, like this hyphen I explained, is just for maybe when you want to list, then this hash for, it's just like maybe for those that are familiar with HTML, it's just like, but it's not hard at all. If I click on this one now, that's that. If I want to see the markdown format, just shift enter, just, or maybe running that cell, I will see the markdown format. So going into data types. So last week, as you can see, there's a variable here called age, and the variable is carrying a data type. The data type is an integer, and in this case, so integer, we're familiar with integer, just like a whole number. That's the mathematics sense of it, a whole number. So we can store it, and then last week also, I believe we've not forgotten the rules of naming a variable. They are very, very important. If we can actually write it down, I will be very, very happy, because it's very, very easy to make a mistake. So there are rules, and we mentioned those rules last week, if you can remember. So we won't go into that again. So now we can create a variable. That's not a challenge for us again. So normally when we are creating a variable, the name we'll be giving our variable should resonate with the value we are storing into it. Say for example, I'm collecting the age of someone. I should not store the age of someone inside B, because if anybody sees the code and is seeing B, it's going to be very, very hard for the person to understand that I'm storing age inside B. So the name will be given a variable. Let it resonate with the function, what is actually doing. So this is an integer now, data type. This is height. This one is a float now. We are familiar with decimal number. So we can put as many digits, as many decimal places the variable wants to handle. Then the third one now is the complex. Now for those of us that are familiar with mathematics, there is real, there's imaginary value. When we begin to go into data science very, very well, we begin to see some of these applications. So you can actually store a complex value. So 5 is the real part of this value, and 4 is the imaginary part. So we can actually store that inside first. Then the last one, which is strange. So like I explained last week, strange is just anything. Like that's why it's even being put inside a quotation. It can accommodate anything. We can put mixture of name and digit. We can put mixture of name and characters. We can put mixture of characters and special characters. We can put anything. Let's just try and ensure we put a quotation outside of it. It will accommodate it. It has become a string. So that's that. Then there's also list. Now, to save us the stress of, take for example, you have 20 students in a class, and I cannot be saying student 1, I want to store all their names. And I will now say STD1 equals Shola, STD2 equals Bimpe, STD3. Before I know it, my code is already getting like bored. So, and the concept of list. So list is a data type itself. So you can actually store list of value inside a single variable. And we may want to ask, if we store a list of value inside a variable, we don't want to reach out to each of the value inside the list. How do we do that? So there's what we call indexing. Indexing is the position each of those values occupies in that particular list. As you can see in my example now, goods is the variable. Then you can see rice is inside there, beans there, then millet. So as it is now, we have 3 elements inside these particular variables, and they are all string data type. Now I want to.
Are you recording, please?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I'm a bit too fast, sir.
So I just want to confirm if you are recording.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So as it is now, take for example, if I want to get access to the beans, the beans section there. So now there's a way it works. As you can see, the rice is sitting at the first position. The rice is occupying index 0. So the indexing starts from 0. the beans is occupying the index position 1, and the millet is occupying the index position 2. So if I keep adding, maybe I add another one, and maybe I add cucumber, cucumber. Yes, I don't know this word. I had a cucumber. So now I have 4 elements. Now cucumber is now sitting at index 3. So if I want to print out maybe maybe I want to work with cucumber now, all I just have to do is just say, let's say for example I want to print, okay, I don't want to work with okay, I want to, I say print, I can say print, then I'll just say goods, then the index I want to deal with, that's cucumber. I want to print out cucumber. So that will be 0, 1, 2, 3. So cucumber is sitting on index 3. So I just put 3. So let me just comment these ones out so that we can see the output. So I want to run my cell. Now I want to run only this cell now. Just as we learned last week, I can click on run here. I can come here and say run cell. That will run that particular cell I've selected. Or there's a shortcut I've learned. You can do shift enter. So shift enter now. As you can see our output, cucumber. So it has gone, it went into the list and it printed the not just the goods now, but the index 3 now. Say if I want to print the whole list now, I can actually do that. I'll just remove the index and let me run again. As you can see, it prints out everything as a list. So that's what lists can do for us. So it saves us the stress of saving too many variables. And so imagine maybe I want to, I didn't wanted to save any of those goods. I say good 1 equals right, good 2 equals beans, good. No. So list help us to address it. Now, there's also what we call tuple. Tuple is different from a list. Tuple is different from a list. As you can see, when we declare list here, we enclose this with a square bracket. That's what makes it a list. Now, a tuple now is being enclosed with a parenthesis. This is a tuple now. It's been enclosed with a parenthesis. And there's a major difference between a tuple and a list. There's a major difference between a tuple and a list. Now, let me go back to list. Now, as it is now, if I want to take, for example, in the course of my work, I still need to remove rice and put yam in place of rice. Then I want to change, that means I want to change the value of index 0. I can actually change it with a list. All I just have to do is to just do what we can see here. That's goods index 0. And I will change the value that is being inside, that is being placed inside that particular index. I change it to yam. Now I can actually do that. Or maybe if I want to add another good to that list. Take for example this particular line. This particular line is helping me to add fish to that goods. So I can actually add fish to it. So fish will come and sit down here. That means I will have fish here now. So, but I want to programmatically add fish to it. This line will do it. So as you can see, goose.append. Goose.append, then it's appending whatsoever value I put inside that append. So later on we will understand it in depth, all these methods. So, but what I actually want to bring out of it is, please give me the room to be able to still maneuver some of the values inside it, despite the fact that I've created it and I've declared it. Now, let me run this and let's see. If I run this now and let me print out my goods. So as you can see now, it has changed rice to yam successfully. And it has changed and it has added fish to the element I have in that list. So with list, I can actually, list is flexible. So in programming, they call it mutability. So in this sense, we can say list is mutable. List is mutable. So now, what's now the difference between list and tuple now? The number one difference is tuple makes use of parentheses and tuple is not mutable. Tuple is immutable. If you can read what I actually wrote in my code. So sorry, I forgot to add. We'll still talk about comment in the next class. So any line you see that I put hash, I used to it as hash, but in programming they call it pound sign. So any line we see with pound sign is actually comments. I've commented that line out. I just use it to explain whatsoever we may be seeing. So now tuple is actually immutable. That means what I've actually done to list here, I can't do it to tuple. So now let me create a tuple here. As you can see, I created a tuple. I call it scores. And it's collecting, it's actually the list of scores. So now I can't do what we are seeing here. Score 0 equals 90. I want to change the index 0. I want to change it to 90. I won't be able to do that. So let me run our program and let's see the output. As you can see, it's giving me an error. It said tuple object does not support item assignment. So there's no way I can tweak it again and change anything. So that's the difference between a tuple and a list. So list is a data type itself, just like how integers, float, and all that. List is a data type. Tuple is also a data type. So we are back to the correct things now. So let's move on. Let's go to another data type called dictionary and set. So dictionary uses a key value pair. Key value pair. Now let's picture it in this sense. Key, like I'm having the key to the house. Value, that means the content, the real thing itself. So now, if we picture maybe for a particular course now, the matric number of the students and their respective score, I can actually store each matric number and the respective score and have it in form of a list and store it inside a single variable. So as you can see, if you look at the example I have here, math_no underscore scores, that's the name of my variable. And it's actually a data type of dictionary is being stored inside of it. And as you can see here, the first element, this is the first element. So in dictionary, is the key and the value, they work together. It's different from list or tuple where you just have a single value. In dictionary, you have a key and you have a value. So with this, in this example I have now, I have two elements. The first element has a key value pair and the other element also has a key value pair. So the first element is E122345. That is the key. And the value assigned to that key is 67. Then this is now also the second element. So now, with the significance of this is what we are really after is the value, but the key helps us to map some signatures to the value. Take for example now, if I want to maybe print out the score of a particular student. So what I will just do is I can just say print, then I'll use my variable math_nums. Now, let me be introducing us to some shortcuts on the Jupyter Notebook. Now I will need to maybe rewrite math_num scores, and it's going to take me some time. So all I can just do is I've already pressed math. I will just press tab. When I press tab on my keyboard, it will give me a drop down of anything on the memory that actually has start with M80. So when I press tab, so it may take time. It depends on how. Okay, so as you can see now, math, I press, so it actually give me the list of what it has on its memory presently that starts with math_num. So now what I want to do is I want to print out the value of a particular magic number. So how I will do that is I'll just use this square bracket, then I will put the key inside of it. So the key, the one I want to print out first is this one, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now let me comment out every other line so that they won't interfere with what I'm explaining. So with this now, it should print out 67, shift enter. So as you can see now, so I've used this key to print out the value. So let's just picture it as a key to something. Rewritten is the value. So as time goes now, we begin to see the application of data set, dictionary, and other data types, and we begin to see where they are kind of applicable. This is just one out of many applications. So we can actually have maybe a particular course and the matric number and the data assigned to it. So the element might be so much. When we start working with data sets, it may be up to millions of rows. So that's just an example. So now let me move on. There's also what we call set. Now, set is just like dictionary, but set is not a key value pair. But the way you declare it also with this curly brace. But there's one unique thing about set. Set it helps prevent duplicate values. If you look at the example I have here, this is a set data type. I saved it inside a variable called password. And let me comment this out. So now, as you can see, if you look at the elements inside our variable, we have Olawumi247, we have Jonathan, we have Olawumi247 again. Now, with set will only see two elements. It will kill the other Olawumi247. So set helps us avoid repetitions of data elements. So now if I print password, let me print password here now. Let me comment this out. If I shift enter, if I print password, as you can see, it only saw one Olawumi247 and Jonathan. So set automatically takes care of that. It does not deal with duplicate values. So there may be some variables you want to, that you don't want, just like this example now, password. I don't want, maybe I'm collecting password of, I'm just imagining a software solution that stores list of the password of users to the back end. And I don't want a user to have the same password with someone that is already existing on the system. So I can actually use set to filter that out. So it's an automatic filter, it avoids duplicate. But it is actually mutable. That means I can actually update it. So as you can see here now, I want to add a new element to password now. All I just did is password.add. So when I do that again and I run my program again, shift enter, as you can see, it has added Colapo. It has added Colapo to it. So, and you can actually later, if you look at my comments here, you can use discard or to remove an element. So maybe I want to remove Colapo. I want to remove Olawumi247 now. I'll just do password dot remove. Then
the voice is breaking.
Okay. How about now?
It's still breaking. Your internet connection is unstable.
Okay, I guess it's the network provider. Well, can you hear me clearly now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So to what point did we get me clearly, so that I can maybe come over again?
Please continue.
Okay. Did you get me to, like, hope nobody is missing, like up to which point did my point break up to?
Exactly where you are exactly.
Okay. This section is about to finish, just like last week. Let's just reconnect back after a few minutes to the class. So now set is actually mutable. That means I can still remove some of the elements I have there. So I want to remove Olawumi247. So I'll use password dot remove. So password is a variable itself, 247. So when I shift enter, so as you can see now, it has removed Olawumi247 from the set. So now that's just I just use those examples to explain the uniqueness of each data type. The uniqueness of each data type. And the last one we'll be talking about is frozen set. There's a data type called frozen set. This particular data type is not mutable, it's immutable. That means you can't, it's a set itself. Just as we can see, it's a set, but you can't edit the content after creating it. That's just the difference. So this is how you declare a frozen set. Just use frozen set in brackets. Then you put the set data. This is a set now. Then you just put it inside the brackets. That's how we make a frozen set. So as time goes on, we may not even use some data types. As time goes on, we may use some data types. So it depends on what we are working with. And the last thing I would like to talk about before this session ends, so that we can start operator, is there's a way you can use to know the data type of a particular variable. The data type of a particular variable. Now let me explain something with Jupyter briefly. Now, when I run this cell, it ran. When I ran this cell, it ran. I saw the output. And I also ran this cell, it ran. Now, as you can see, I create variable and I store values on them and I run them. I create variable in each of those cells. Now, as I do that, those variables are being stored inside the memory of the interpreter. That means as I've come here on this cell now that I've declared good, I can come to a new cell and just say print good. It's going to print it out to me. So the memory now, the storage now is not limited to a particular cell. It's not limited to a particular cell. So I want us to take note of that. So it's not limited to a particular cell. So one thing I want to explain in this section is there's a way you can know the data type of a particular variable. Take for example now, maybe you're working with a plenty code base and you don't even know where the person actually declared the data type, and you want to know the data type. So you can actually do this by saying type, then in brackets, just put the name of the variable. In this case, now I want to know the type of goods. So I just press shift enter. So as you can see, the output told me that type goods is a list. Now, maybe I want to know admin list now, which is what we have here. I can do type admin list. Enter. So admin list is not defined. So let me run this cell and let me run this. Okay. So as you can see what happened now. I've not run this cell, so it has not committed admin list as a variable name on the memory. So when I ran it, this cell did not even identify it. So anything we have on other cell, so most times if you open a Jupyter notebook like this, just do well to just run any code cell, run it in the order you meet them, because the previous, the later cell may be dependent on the previous one. And there's a way, like I explained on Monday, there's a way it helps us to number it such that we know what we ran last. So in this case, now 18, 19, that means I ran this one before this one. 20, I ran this one before this one. 21, I've ran this one also. Now, if you look at it now, this one is 13. So it's telling me that it's been a while I ran this one. So this one may not even be carrying the latest digit. Take for example, if maybe I've come here to change it now. So to keep this cell updated, let me run it again. So 22. It's telling me this one is the latest format. So that's that concerning data type. So I believe with what we've just done and with what we've read, we have full understanding of a variable, how to declare a variable, the rules in declaring a variable, and the various data types and the uniqueness and how to declare a data type. So I declare a variable and assign to a data type. So if there are any questions concerning these two topics, so let's do it too. So I expect us to start practicing many things on our own now. Start practicing many things on our own now. And when we are faced with challenges, we can screenshot it and send it to the WhatsApp group so that others can learn and we can quickly trash it out before the next class. So I don't want this section to cross into the next section. So the next section, we'll be looking at operators. We'll be looking at operators. There are various kinds of operators, and there are things they do, and they help us to do some operations, just like the name implies. So, is there any question? We have just 1 minute left for this section. If there's any question, let's just raise it before this section ends.
All right, I have a question.
Okay, sir.
When you are doing for sets, and you added another variable, another element, you didn't specify the element position, just like you did when you are doing for lists, where you are using 0, 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
Do you understand the question now?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So why didn't you specify it for insert insert here?
Now, anytime one does not specify and one just add it as it is, what it's going to do is it's going to add it to the enye. Let me use Yoruba. It's going to add it to the back, like the back of it. Like let me clean this and let me run this again. Realize that let me look at it. Okay, sorry. There's another thing concerning sets. It's not all